So why did URA award the Zion Road Parcel A GLS, even though there's only one single bidder? So this is just in. URA awarded the Zion Road and the Upper Thomson site to the only sole bidders. That means every tender only got one bidder at, now this is the catcher, lower than expected offers. Now, when you ask about lower than expected offers, right, you'll be thinking that, so what is low? But never mind, we take a look at Zion Road Parcel A. It was awarded to CDL and Mitsu Fudosan for a per square foot per plot ratio of 1202. And the Upper Thomson plot, Parcel B, right, went to Coco Land and Hong Leong. And this per plot, the per square foot per plot ratio works out to be about $905. So you might be thinking, so what does it even mean, right? To be honest, if you look at the recent news, this plot in the Marina Gardens Crescent, right, is rejected recently because URA finds the sole bidder again, right? So this plot only got one sole bidder and they find that it is too low. So how low, like, right? So if you look at the sites, right, the two plots, and you place them side by side. So this is the Zion Road site, right? Parcel A, right, next to the Great World Station, MRT station. And if you look at the Marina Gardens site, this is already awarded to the Marina Gardens Lane, and this is the site that was rejected, the Marina Gardens Crescent site. Okay, so what is the difference? Both of them actually, this is 30%, right? The difference between this and this, the price is about 30%. And if you look at the news, the difference in the price, right? Okay, the Zion Road parcel, okay, might not be awarded. So it was speculated because it was about 30% lower, okay, than the surrounding plots that's recently transacted. So what gives? Why, okay, why did the URA awarded parcel A, but they did not award the Marina Garden site? Okay, so here's what I think. Number one, all right, because if you look at the news, this site is actually going to serve as a new class of property. Okay, it's going to be long stay service apartment. So what do you mean by long stay service apartment? Because there are 3 month minimum stay that is required for this service apartment. If you go and do other service apartment, minimum is not 3 months. It can be shorter than that. Okay, it is meant to be a pilot. So it's like something that they want to try and see, to see whether it's able to, right, address the evolving needs for long-term rental. Okay, this is really come about because the rental was really going very, very high. Okay, so that's why if you look at, okay, what is the specification, right, for the Zion Road Parcel A, it's actually not small, you know. It is actually 1,170 units with 435 units of this special kind of service apartment. It's not small, all right? So the interesting thing, which I'm going to share with you, is, surprise, surprise, Upper Thomson, actually Parcel A, okay, which is not awarded yet, but is now under bidding, right? It's also going to be service apartment, the special service apartment, about 100 of them, right? So this site, Parcel A later on in Upper Thomson, is going to be a 640 unit and inclusive of the 100 units of service apartment, right? So keep that in mind because this is very important later on, which I'm going to explain. So the next reason that I think is very important is because of, you've guessed it, right? Since 2023, there was an additional buyer stamp duty being leveraged on foreigners. All in all, right, foreigners now have to pay additional buyer stamp duty of 60%, right? 60% more. So what happens is this basically has dwindled down some of the demand, okay, in the prime district, because traditionally in the prime district 9, 10, 11 in the CCR is where a lot of foreigners will be coming and buy property. Okay, so that's one. Okay? The demand has gone down. Number two, the high construction costs. Construction costs have gone up, right? Ever since the COVID, there's a shortage of labor. The price of all the construction material have all been increasing. So as a developer, right, okay, you are met with a, a big a big portion of what we call a risk, right? What are the risks? When you buy a piece of land, especially in the CCR, right, you have to factor in all these risks, which is where is the demand going to come from, right? Is it going to be the traditional foreigner buyer? The construction cost that's higher? And then you all know that now all the interest rate, right, is still very high. So there is also, when the developer build a condo, they also borrow money. So there's also need financing from bank. And the high interest rate environment means it's a higher finance cost to them, right? So all in all, right, okay, the investment appetite of buyers, right, has been tapered off quite a fair bit, especially in the CCR and the prime district area, right? So what does it all mean, right? If you look at the Zion Road, that plot was being sold for 1202 per square foot per plot ratio. And if you look at the surrounding plot, right, okay, the latest GLS that is nearby, Irwell Hill, okay, was sold 2020. It was $1,500. Okay, 2017, Revere, $1,700. Martin Modern, 2016, $1,200. So if you compare, $1,200, it's like you take a time machine, you know, okay? Then you minus off 8 years, you travel back 8 years, then you get the same kind of price, $1,200. What it means is the developer buy cheap doesn't mean the developer will sell cheap. So let me give you an example. So remember this that was launched? TMW, right? If you remember, this was an en bloc. And if you work out the en bloc price, right, the developer actually got the land very, very cheap. Okay, but they launched TMW at market price. All right, so that is one very recent example that I can share with you, that when the developer, even though the developer bought the land cheap, doesn't mean that the developer will sell you cheap. So looking at this chart, right, it also helps to explain that why, okay, URA thinks that I can wait and see for this plot, right? The reason why is pretty simple. If you look at the entire area, right, this entire cluster, this entire district, okay, there are still quite a fair bit of development that has yet to be launched or still have existing stock. So if you look at TMW, there's still plenty of stock left for TMW, right? At the time of this recording, right, easily there's close to 90+% of the stocks that's still left for TMW, right? You talk about Newport. Newport was initially started to launch in 2023, but upon the release of the news that ABSD 60%, they delayed the launch, right? They actually delayed the launch for 1 year already now, and have no news whether they are going to launch it or not. And this is ready to go, right? It's a former Fuji Xerox tower, okay, a freehold tenure, right right in the vicinity. And look at this Marina View, this Marina View GLS, okay, Marina View Residences. This is also slotted to launch, okay. And look at this EXA Tower, right? So it's supposed to be the Alibaba Tower, okay. This one is also slotted to be launched. So you can see that there are still quite a fair number of projects that are still in the pipeline, together with one more that they sold this, right? The Marina Gardens Lane GLS was also to launch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, with one already launched and there's a spare. So you look at this, right? There's still plenty of inventory down there. Okay, that is why I think, right? I'm just my opinion that I think that this is the reason why that this plot was rejected, because the price was 30%, about 30% different also. Okay, because why? They still have plenty of inventory around the area. But if you look at the news, right, the news report actually also says that, okay, it would actually, the tender outcome also, let me put up bigger for you, the tender outcome also reflects how the government has to balance optimizing land sales proceeds and pushing out new housing supply to stabilize private home prices. Okay, this statement is very important. Okay, the reason why, in fact, the GLS that is being queued up, okay, that's available on the list, is one of the most number of units, the most number of land that the government has decided to sell. Okay, the reason being the prices of property has gone up quite a fair bit. Okay, due to the fact that the COVID and due to the fact that there is a supply shortage, which is a vacuum caused by the COVID. Therefore, they are trying to elevate this by solving the supply issue. So if you look at the interview by the minister, okay, in one of the programs, he clearly says that to solve the pricing issue for the property, right, is very, very fundamental. You just look at the supply and the demand. So they sort of already structured and look at how to settle, how to tackle the supply issue by giving you more GLS land, building more BTO flats. Okay, and secondly, they look at how to moderate the demand side by introducing ABSD for foreigners, right? So, but if you ask me, I feel that it's a little bit punitive. All right, you can see that prices have backtracked by 8 years just by looking at the Zion Road parcel itself, right? But having said that, I think there is pretty much a lot of potential over here. You're talking about, getting an advantage of 8 years here. All right. So plus the fact that also the government also just announced, okay, launching these two new tender, right? This one is the River Valley Green area. These two plots are also being up for tender. So we'll just have to wait and see what are the prices of these two plots. Okay, but I think really one of the reasons why the government still continue to do so is they want to really, number one, moderate the prices, but I think a lot of pressure is on them to really push out this pilot program to really bring, okay, the rental demand really down. All right. Now, I want to talk about the second plot, okay, because all the attention seems to go onto the first plot, right? There are actually, before the news announced, a lot of people in the industry is actually speculating that perhaps they will also reject the bid for the Zion Road. Okay, but for the Upper Thomson Road, there's really not much dispute about that. We more or less know the Upper Thomson Road, actually this plot is going to be launched. Okay, because why? The difference in the area is actually about 8%. Okay, parcel B actually was about 8% lower compared to the last parcel, okay, in nearby the Lentor Township, right? So you'd be surprised that why they launched the full residential first, okay, and not parcel A. Right, so this is number one you have to observe, okay, because parcel A is actually going to be integrated to Springleaf Station. Together, there is also going to be 100 units of these service apartments. So this, right, you can almost guess it that the price is supposed to be higher, right? So they are actually using parcel B, I say, as a benchmark to benchmark the price there so that the next bid, right? Okay, potentially, right, when the market situation is better, you will actually get a land price that is higher than parcel B. So you watch out for this, right? So this actually is won by Coco. Okay, the way I say it is because it's very interesting. Okay, this area, if I can zoom in for you, is the Lentor Township. It's next to the Lentor MRT station. And out of the 6 plots, 5 of them, right, the developer is Coco Land. Okay, combined with this plot, which Land also just won, right? Okay, they are trying to be some sort like a master developer, okay, in this precinct. If you look at it that way, the way I see it, like that. So why do they want to do so? If you look at even on this zoom out map, here is one big empty piece of land, right? So what is this empty piece of land? So if you look at this, this is actually, this color is actually residential. That means they are not only, the government is not only developing okay, this Lentor Township, is trying to develop a new Springleaf Township, because all this is going to be residential area, right? It just goes to show that, okay, it just goes to show that the government does a lot of things in advance. First of all, they construct the MRT line. Okay, trivial, just a fact, just a fun fact. Do you know how much Springleaf MRT costs? Actually, it costs in excess of $300 million. I've Googled it. Okay, I think it's about $330 million, somewhere in the region. So it will be very strange. Right now, if you drive in that area, right, you'll see one full-fledged MRT station only serving the Springleaf landed enclave, and it's such a small enclave. Cannot be, right? The government cannot be spending this kind of money just to serve one small enclave. Am I right to say so? Right? So that's why you see, some of the time when you see the master plan like this, you will be able to see that what the future is going to hold. So we already know that this has turned into residential. That's why infrastructure is being built. We have the MRT being built, number one. Number two, we are moving population into the area. And what kind of population? Of course, we have residential. Okay, it will not surprising, we are going to get BTOs here. Okay, already there's a BTO along the Mandai area, somewhere over further up there. Okay, right? So there are going to be BTOs, plus there's going to be private condos that's going to be right in this precinct. Okay, and number three, you can see that they already started to build integrated development. That means what? There are amenities being here. And this is something that I think a lot of people don't take note of, is they are also trying to introduce 100 units of service apartments over here. So why service apartment? Okay, if you just Google it, it's very interesting. Lentor Station don't used to be on this Thomson East Coast line. It used to be on the main line. Why? Because you can see this water body here. In fact, if you just Google it, Disneyland is supposed to come here, right? Okay, the entire area is going to be somewhat like a tourism place. Okay, and you can already see already, because why? There's a very big bird park in Jurong that has just moved into the Mandai area. So if you, I want to guess, maybe the government wants to develop the ecotourism around this area. We have the zoo, we have the bird paradise, we have all these are situated around here. So together with the Seletar aerospace industry, so all this area, right? Okay, the government has plans to make sure that the population is moving into this area. And when population moves into any area, any district, right, very likely the prices of property, right, will just going to follow one direction. It's just going to follow to go up. Okay, so is that all? You see there's one patch that is subject to detailed planning, another patch subject to detailed planning. All these are going to be homes, by the way, right? And if there is not enough, right, you can see there's yellow land. All this yellow land, the government have planned for future planning. Yeah, if you're going to zoom out all this yellow land, it can be homes, it can be very likely more homes. Okay, so that's why I think this particular GLS has a lot of implication which you can think. So if you're really looking into getting into a first mover advantage, right? Actually, even though there are 5 that's already launched, the 6th one is coming up somewhere later this year for the Lentor district, there are still, prices are still holding. Why? Because number one, okay, the interest rate is not coming down as fast as people are expected. So the developer is still trying to get buyers to so-called take up the inventory. It's still a buyer's market. And number two, we can see that another new township is coming here. Population is moving into this area. All right. And like just now I said, when population move into the area, okay, property prices will follow suit. All right, will just follow suit. And so if you like content just like that, remember to leave a comment and tell me what else would you like to see on this channel. And just remember, if you like this content, remember to give a like and subscribe to the channel. It will definitely help me a lot. And this is Pete from Singapore Property Pro, helping you take the next step with property. I'll see you in the next video.